All right. Namaskara, everyone. Welcome to Journeys with Bhumivasi series um, that Bhumi College uh, has been organizing. And a couple of reasons why we've been doing this. So maybe I'll quickly, before that, happy Onam to everyone. who- Um, so, yeah, I think a couple of reasons why we are doing this series called Journeys with Bhumivasis. So if you ask, we've been running the fellowship for almost a decade now. Um, and if you ask most of the fellows who have done the fellowship, including people who are here, various alumni, um, I think most of them will tell you that um, the one thing that they take back from the fellowship may not necessarily be a specific module or a specific um, thing that they learned within the classroom or uh, within the classroom sessions or outside. And it probably has been the sense of community that they've felt. And this is all across um, the different batches because I've been um, part of Bhumi for the past 9 years. So I've heard the same thing that there is a sense of community um, with your fellows. And while that has happened for each of the batches, one reason we thought we would expand that community is to make sure that our fellows across years are able to connect with each other, maybe even collaborate, um, and really have a shared sense of identity as a Bhumivasi. So I think for us, one of the reasons why we're doing that is to really connect alumni from across batches with each other and to let them know what many of the alumni are doing. And a lot of our alumni, who are some of them are going to present, and some of them are here showing solidarity, have been doing amazing work. So that is one of the objectives for us to do this series. I think the larger objective is to also let people know that there are really multiple ways of living right now, right? There are just, we don't really have to sort of conform to a narrative that is laid out for many of us, right? You've got to do it, go to college, pick up a job, and get settled, blah, 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 and then do what is supposed to be done, which is prosperity for yourself. And then once you feel secure with that prosperity, you can maybe start doing things for others around you, maybe the environment if you're really, really privileged. But I think that narrative is really old now, and it's not even true. So if you look at the number of people who are doing amazing work, like we call it the alternative, but it is like real life work, right? In fact, the alternative would be if you were removed from the real world and sitting somewhere and being disconnected from um, nature, other people. I think that would be the alternative. But sadly, we call working in nature, working with animals, working with communities, local communities, we call it the alternative. And but there are amazing uh, ways of living, ways of even not just surviving but thriving. And so what Bhumi College really wants to do is to say that there isn't just one way of living, and that one way of narrative that has been told to us is really about uh, goals and ambitions and how do you reach your ambition. But the other way of looking at life also could be to seek a calling and really have a sense of purpose and work towards that calling. So the two different ways of looking at it is, one is the ambition goal oriented way, and one is to say that, hey, can is there a calling that I can pursue? Can I really follow it? And don't know what comes out of it. So I think we really want to make um, other youth, young people who sometimes feel not very confident that, okay, can I really do this? Is there, because there isn't a proper documentation of all these livelihoods in a way, where you can sort of follow your calling and pursue your inner calling. So our larger attempt is to do that, and we feel like this is a great resource that we are building, that we can share with many youngsters, not just in terms of age, but people who really want to transition to the alternative or want to really expand the impact that they want to have around the communities around them. So that is the larger objective for us to do this. So thank you everyone for joining us. And what I'll do is I'll just let Farah take over and just quickly, I think most of you know about Bhumi College and the work that we do. But maybe just a quick intro to the college, the fellowship that we offer, and our sister organization network. Farah, can I just invite you to give us a quick intro?
Yeah. Thanks, Adil. Thanks, and welcome to everyone for this session. So yeah, I will try and be very brief. So like Adil said, there are two units, Bhumi College and Bhumi Network. Both are run by the trust KNA Foundation for Education, which also runs Prakriya Green Wisdom School. It's a public charitable trust. So Bhumi College and Bhumi Network both were started in 2008 with the larger focus of creating spaces and engaging with individuals and groups to help them move towards a more ecologically wise living. And any activity, every activity that we do here is focused on either holistic education or sustainable living. So Bhumi Network, there are three spaces and three projects that come under Bhumi Network. One is our organic farm in Gumlapuram. The main focus of that farm is to introduce organic farming to either youth from the local areas or students of agriculture university. There we also conduct programs for families and groups who would want to learn organic farming. Then another space is again in Tamil Nadu, Thiruvannamalai, where we had 80 acres of dry and arid land, a part of which we have greened. And there our focus is to create options for livelihoods. And we are working with the self-help groups of women from the local nearby villages. So that's the thing in Thiruvannamalai. Then we have a space in Sharavati rainforest close to Shimoga. There our focus is to conserve indigenous species of plants and trees and afforestation. So we are working on that. So these three spaces come under Bhumi Network. Then we have Bhumi College, where we basically engage with two activities. One is short programs and the other is fellowship program. So short programs we generally offer over weekends, or it's a day-long or 2-day-long program that we offer on varied themes and topics. So some of the topics that we have done through online medium in the last year is focused on food or health and immunity, self-exploration, systems thinking. So some of these have been, or looking at our immunity building through traditional methods. So these are some of the things that we have offered. And the fellowship program is, I can say, is the main activity that we have at the college. And so we are offering a 6-month fellowship program. The focus of this fellowship program is for people who want to take an alternative path, who want to do things differently, who want to be change makers. So sometimes they need a network, they need a group of people to engage with, to kind of strengthen their conviction before they go on the path. So the college, this fellowship provides that space. And of course, there are multiple topics that we cover under that. So the format of fellowship is there are three parts of it. So we have a foundation module, then we have electives, and we have an internship. So under foundation module, we cover a range of topics such as connecting with self, land, and community, looking at the current economic system and what are the flaws in it, significance of craft and working with hands, again a program on self-exploration, looking at education for sustainability, media and communication, how it can be used to communicate to the larger group of people about practices in sustainability. So these are some of the topics that we cover under foundation module. Then we have 3 electives that we are offering as of now: ecological farming, holistic education, and education for sustainability. So ecological farming will look at multiple aspects of farming, organic farming, looking at the soil, looking at permaculture concept, biodynamics. So those things will be covered in ecological farming elective. And holistic education will be looking at processes and practices that are needed for an alternative learning space. What kind of environment we need to create for a joyful learning? How do we instill a disposition to learn in children? How do we bring some of the macro concern in our education and not just allow it to be focused on achievement and getting grades and marks, and not exam oriented alone? And education for sustainability, we will be focusing what are some of the essentials that need to be part of the education if we want a sustainable future, if we want children to learn about sustainability. Post the electives, fellows will go for an internship. Internship provides them with a hands-on experience of the area that they choose to work in. So through observation, by doing with their hands, they learn, and by being with people who are the practitioners in the field, in that area. So yeah, this is in brief about the college and network. If anyone is interested in knowing more about it, then you can of course visit our website, or you can write to us. And recently we have been having a presentation where we talk in detail about the college and the fellowship program, which we do every Tuesday. So if you need an information about that, we can keep you posted and you can attend one of those presentations to know more about it. So yeah, that's in brief about college. So Adil, I hand it over back to you.
All right, thank you, Farah. What we'll do is, so just to give a quick intro of how the event will go. So we'll have all the speakers speak for about 20 minutes each. I think then we'll have about half an hour of time for interaction. If you just want to ask them any questions, any perspective, or you just want to thank them for the work that they're doing, you can do that. While you're sharing your perspective, you could just introduce yourself then and just tell us what got you here, what have you been doing. So we'll not do the entire group introduction now, if that's okay, Farah. We can do it during the Q&A and sharing.
Sure. We can go ahead
straight. Yeah. And we'll start with the speakers.
Yeah, so shall we start? Shall we go ahead and start with, can we request Kavya to start her presentation?
Yeah, hi. Namaskara, everyone. So excited to be here and sharing space with Bhumi community again. Thank you for inviting. So I'll just share my presentation. So I think if I look back and I was just thinking, doing an exercise of where it all started a few months back. I don't know if some of you have watched this show Satyameva Jayate, which used to air, like 6-7 years back. I think there was one of the episodes on waste management in that series, Garbage to Gold. I don't remember what it was called, but it was that show that first time that caught my attention. That I never knew, like I was good 23 years old or 22 years old then, and that was the first time and neither did my academic background till then or socio-economic background never made me aware as to how big this issue was. And to just know that waste was a resource, is a resource, was very enlightening and empowering. I just feel it is a resource so matter of factly now that it's just interesting and painful. Should I mute somebody? Yeah, so considering it a resource today is so matter of factly I do that, but back then I was so ignorant. It's just so painful and sometimes interesting to know how I didn't know about this. And then it was fascinating to know that there were very simple solutions that exist, but because of some corporate lobbying or not no political will, etc. Such factors are coming in the way of actually implementing proper solutions to manage waste at a larger level. And it was also powerful to know that as an individual, we can be much more conscious on how much we generate and how we dispose our waste or how we manage it responsibly. So yeah, all of these things came out of that watching that show, and I'm just glad that I watched that. But what happened after this show, right? Like, did I do something about it? No, absolutely not. I went back to my own routine of work. I was working in Bombay back then, work, and then maybe preparing for higher studies and the usual run, right? But somewhere the seed got formed during this period, but it was just waiting to be sown, right? I didn't think again about it much. And then a year or so passed by like that, and one fine day I got to know about this fellowship called Young India Fellowship, which is offered by Ashoka University. It's basically a fellowship in liberal arts. Fancy, like I didn't understand myself to explain to others what it is about. Everybody around knew nothing. So it was just this unconventional choice. Even before deciding, though my intuition said that I wanted to go there, but the logical part of me still was not convinced. So we made this pros and cons list, and my flatmates back then really pushed help to go beyond and just join that and see. It was just a year-long fellowship, so I just went back and made that choice, and the experience has been unprecedented, right? As in, so for somebody who's coming from technical backgrounds of engineering, etc., this integration with humanities doesn't exist. So we even electives, maybe we didn't have anything with respect to arts or humanities, etc. So everything that was taught there, be it the faculty or the courses, the content I was engaging with, I was intellectually very charged, and and initially it was really overwhelming because people who joined in there actually were most of them were already engaging with these topics. They had they had some opinions formed. They knew what they were standing for, and I was absolutely a beginner. I didn't know, like I didn't have that exposure or awareness when I entered that space. So that way it was overwhelming, but over time I settled in. If my flatmates used to, sorry, my batchmates used to have feedback, oh, this course is that they could have improved this, that, but for me everything was new. So I just couldn't, I was just taking in as it was coming. It was just like jackpot, khulja simsim, as in when a new course starts, I was just as excited because everything was so new to me, right? And during this process is when I actually started, developing critical thinking or uncovering that maybe it's innate, but I just didn't have the opportunity, or or I was just so privileged enough to not be able to think about things beyond me or my family, etc. That I knew. Now I started thinking about, okay, there are larger issues in the world, etc. And so that sort of critical thinking, I think, started back then. That was the foundation, if I may say so. And I've actually started forming my own opinions about different things. So until then, I was very apolitical. Like I wasn't even putting in efforts to be aware of what's happening around the world. I knew a little bit. I started reading more and putting in efforts to make myself aware of, be it gender issues or caste, class, anything, right? Environmental issues, etc. So I think by the end of this fellowship, if you ask me what happened, I think the activist in me, which was hibernating for so long, has just come to life, right? So that's what happened at the end of this fellowship. And during the fellowship also, one of the things that happened was, so there was this course on sociology of environment, which as a part of which we had to do a project, and we could choose anything of our our choice. And then so our campus used to be located away from Delhi. It was in Sonipat, Haryana. So if we had to go to Delhi now and then during the weekend, so on a bus ride, we often used to pass a hill like structure. So I always thought that it was a hill. And suddenly during one of those trips, like a person sitting next to me told, that is a garbage dump. I was so shocked, so that just stood with me. And during this projects that came back, so I thought, okay, let me work on this. And my team also agreed. So we went and visited the landfill actually, right? So what we had to do was just to see the impact on like people living around and what's happening, if there are any water bodies or agricultural lands, or if there are any animals around. So what's happening, to just talk to them and make a report on it, right? The first time I visited it, it was the disconnect that we urban, urbanites, if I can call it that, that we live with, right? It's just shocking. I mean, we're so distanced from reality that after just throwing stuff in your dustbin, we don't even know where it's going, right? There, I knew that, okay, now it's traveling hundreds of kilometers to just end up there and creating this ruckus, and the conditions there were really, really dismal, right? And just the social injustice part of it. So the people who are living there, it's not even their waste that they have to deal with, right? It's just people in the city are happily generating it and throwing it in the dustbin, and that's traveling so far and impacting lives here. And most of these people were displaced. So there was some flyover construction happening in the city, and they were supposed to move away from the city. And a government has allotted them this space for their residential plots. And most of these people don't have the power or choice to move away, right? Now they'll have to live with that reality of having to have a landfill or that huge dump yard just 100 meters or 50 meters away from where they live. They'll have to live through the waste that just flows into their homes when it rains, and the smell, they just live with it. That's it, right? It was just eye-opening, if I may say so. So when I was watching Satyameva Jayate, I think it was just more a digital experience, but here it was so real and it just hit me so hard. And the health hazard of it, right? The emissions, like, methane is one of the deadliest greenhouse gases, that is. And landfills are one of the largest emitters of that gas. And it's just not the people around, but it's going to impact everybody gradually, right? And the animals that come there to feed, right? And the liquid that comes out of this mess, which is polluting the groundwater there, and in turn the agricultural lands around, it was just too much overwhelming to take in, right? And the environmental impact that I said, like pollution and the ground water. So at the end of this, now did I do something? Yes. now I decided that no, at least my waste shouldn't end up somewhere here, or wherever I live, at least my family's waste shouldn't come here. So that seed that formed back then when I watched that episode, I think finally got sown somewhere during this period. Then what? Then there came a phase, like after the first fellowship. Now I had lots of information. Now I'm able to see few things, etc. So, but once you come back, like there's a shift when you move out of a fellowship or a space. Now there you are part of a majority who's thinking like you. Now you're moved to a space where you are part of the minority, like hardly anybody around is thinking like you, right? So then the bubble bursts, that welcome to the real world, right? And as a result, so I was trying to have this heated arguments and long texts over WhatsApp, because we were taught that it's important to raise your voice, and and if you see something insensitive, just try to call it out, etc. So I took that rather very seriously, right? So I was doing that without even realizing at what cost is it coming. I was just going on, even if it WhatsApp, email, general conversations, etc. And it was shocking and disappointing to know that people you respect, people you like, have different opinions. I'm not saying who is right or wrong, but they have different opinions. But back then I had this urge to make sure that the others don't just not listen to me, but they'll have to get my point, and they should also start believing in what I believe, right? So in the process, obviously my relationships, I strained them, and as a result of all this, there's anxiety. It'll affect your sleep. I was not happy with the way I was performing at work, and then clearly I was ill-equipped, right? So I know that I have to be doing these things, and I should raise my voice, I should stand up for the right things, etc. But honestly, I was not equipped to take care or balance, and I in the process I wasn't taking care of myself, and that would translate to what comes externally, right? So that was happening through that, right? So I think the seed that got sown for the sustainable living part of whatever I'm doing was just struggling to germinate all during this phase, right? For it to germinate, it needs some right environment, some good moisture, some temperature, right? All these things are required, but that too, I wasn't just providing any of that to it. I think then the universe has really conspired. It understood that, okay, this one is not able to handle the situation properly. And then some intervention was required. And then during this phase, one good thing that was happening was, along with my work, I was trying to, because I promised myself that I am not going to, send out my waste. So I started learning few things, like say simple things like composting or segregation, etc. I was doing, and I was learning how to reduce, and all of that was happening. Because of that, I think that led to other articles or similar content showing up on my Facebook page, and that's how Bhumi Fellowship landed up on my Facebook account. It seemed interesting, like how I did for the previous fellowship. So I just go to the the website and check and see if any of my people that I knew has done this fellowship. So for the last fellowship, I knew at least 2-3 people from my undergrad college who have done that, but here there was nobody that I knew who did that. But again, thankfully, the right thing that I did for both the fellowships is just to trust my intuition. And here I was also very desperate for change. I needed change of place, move away from this place, this work, and all of that. And I applied. I think by that time, like, people around have just given up, defying all expectations. Like, people around thought I would crack IAS, somebody thought I would become a business magnate and all of it. But gladly, I've broken all of that. It's much more freeing now that those expectations don't exist. So anyways, I've decided, and I joined the fellowship, Bhumi College, which was Fellowship in Sustainable Living. Liberal arts, at least from the word arts, there's something people can take in. Now here it's Fellowship in Sustainable Living. I didn't even try explaining to people what it was, right? And Now, what happened here? So the first thing is connect the dots. So how did I the major triggers or what propelled me to start working on at individual level and later community level with regarding to waste management is the social and environmental injustice, right? After coming here is where I could go much further. Like I could connect the dots with respect to how the food that I have can impact health, and how the things that are generating a lot of waste are not even good for my health, let alone environment, right, are not even good for me. So the food has become an integral part of what I was looking at. And next, how like localized systems can reduce the waste that as a community generates, or as a country that we are generating. So these intricate, and everything is interlinked. So for my entry point to sustainable living was waste management, but how that is also interspersed and interlinked with other areas of sustainability is some revelation sort of a thing that happened over the course of Bhumi journey. And next, well-being. So I didn't actually sign up for this, right? So for me, I wanted to learn more about sustainability. So I was interested in waste management and say sustainable textiles, etc. But what came as a bonus was the emphasis here in Bhumi College on your inner well-being, right? Only if you're focusing on your well-being is when you can even translate that into some impactful change or positive change around, right? So that's been a great takeaway from this year-long fellowship. And next, we also had this opportunity to work on a real life project. So we chose, my team and I chose waste management on campus. And I think during this phase is where I was gathering. So by the end of, before joining this fellowship, right, I was feeling so not so alive and not so motivated, etc. During while working on this real life project, which is a topic of my interest, I could see that motivation coming back, and the creativity flowing and all of that. We also had chance to organize a low waste conference event, where about it was over 2 days, and around 20,000 people came in for the conference. So that was another exciting opportunity that happened during this real life. So these are just some of the photos from there of how we were trying to create signages and no single-use disposables and all of that, and how all the decoration was just with fallen flowers and leaves, right? So the next thing is we also had this opportunity to do an internship for 6 weeks long. Again, because waste was my interest, I chose this organization called Solid Waste Management Roundtable. It is based out of Bangalore. Those are just a group of passionate, motivated individuals, just like you and me, who formed a group back like 12 years back, and just relentlessly been working to make waste management better in Bangalore city, right? So somebody is working with informal rack pickers, somebody is working with the municipality, somebody is trying to train people and get volunteers, etc. So they are present in all aspects of say waste management. It was so inspiring to work with them, and that really from there the takeaway was to so beyond, like, once you are doing whatever you can at individual step, like working with the like your local municipal bodies, how important is that, and how important citizen groups can play in trying to make our surroundings better for living, right? And by the end of this fellowship, the one thing that I had was anchoring, right? Now I had some sense of direction. I know that I can't do things at the cost of my own health. I'll have to take care of myself before trying to do something for others, right? So that sense of anchoring got established, right? And I think this is when the environment really helped for that seed to germinate. And post fellowship was all about piecing myself together, right? Be it work. So I loved that organization so much that I joined them full time. I started working with them in space of waste management, and I came back home after fellowship, right? And I had to work from home because of the COVID situation. And one of the things that I invested a lot of time in was to come up with some process at home, right? It's a very, very difficult task if people around are not on board with you. But now I'm like better equipped. I have better tools to engage. I have a lot more patience. I understand them better as to where they're coming from. I don't expect them to change within a day or two. So it took a long time to switch to natural cleaners and all sorts of trying to make this space little more sustainable, right? And growing, I never knew that I was going to love growing so much. So during the whole year in Bhumi, we learned about farming, and there was course on gardening at homes, etc. It was always interesting, but I never knew that a large part of my day to day is going into this, and large part of how I feel every day is also because of this. um, you know I'll maybe show the pictures in the end. I think I thought I was not a curious, person, but I think after starting growing, the child in me became alive. I've become more curious, and earlier I used to have curry leaf when it comes in, curries, etc., with great difficulty. But now I just have it so, happily, because I don't want to waste any of it, because I am growing my curry leaf. So that's the hack. If you don't like curry leaf, start growing at your home and you'll start eating it. That's with anything, right? If you don't like tomato, etc., you just grow your own tomato and then you will start having it, right? And then acceptance, I said, now I'm people find it a lot more easier to engage with me right now. Earlier I didn't know I was repelling people, right, because of my strong opinions, and trying to always point out, "Oh, this is insensitive, that is this, that is that." Yeah, but none of what I believe has changed. It's just that how I'm approaching or engaging with these things have changed. I'm just glad about that. And there's a long way to go, but I've just become better at it, right? Relationship building, of course, and it's just not with humans. Right now I'm able to engage with like even a frog at home better. The dogs have always been a part of it, but every other I'm able to appreciate the part also that comes from, I think, gardening, and seeing what magical processes are happening with as every day passes, right? And the last, slow life. So earlier, if I think the old me would have been constantly telling me that this is waste of time. What are you doing? Like, you're just growing some stuff, spending some time making your natural cleaners, bioenzyme, and all of that. The idea of productivity has changed over time. So now I'm not, I don't get bogged down by, spending time on things that actually matter. And a slow life doesn't mean lazy life. It's just that you're more mindful and conscious of what you're doing, because every action matters and counts somewhere, right? If it is for the bad or the good. So this embracing slow life has really begun, I would say. So yeah, so one of the things that happened at the end of this is I started this initiative called Earth Sitters. This beautiful logo was done by one of my friends from Bhumi, Preeti. So grateful. So how did this come up? Actually, when after I came back from the fellowship, along with work, I was also doing some informal sessions, right, on waste management and what individuals can do from home. For any interested group of people. So there's a Rotary Club and some groups of ladies, etc. So I was doing that, and that was happening as a parallel process. Not so officially or formally. And then I think at the end of last year, one of my friends, Deepak, again, Bhumi alumni, he has invited me to conduct a session for a day long for a group of 30 people in a natural farm. I think by the end of that day I was very high on that training or that engagement with those group of people on the topic that I love. After that is when I started thinking that maybe I can start doing this little more formally of any interested group of people, right? And that is how this started. Here the focus is the idea is to do sessions on earth conscious practices. We started off with waste management, but the dream or hope is that it will get extended to other aspects of sustainability, to say growing your food or the kind of food that you should have, etc. So all of that for the future plan. Currently the sessions are only on waste management. The focus is also not to overwhelm people, that you have to do this much and you can do so much, but just to help them embark on this journey and sustain it, not do a lot of things at once. So the sessions are also focused in a way that they're spaced out. There's only one session per week. So at the end of every session, there's an actionable takeaway, right? Now, a lot of us today have the right intent. Just to translate that to action is where maybe no proper guidance or proper push or that nudge. So the focus is also to just give that little nudge so that people start doing these simple things at home. As I said, intent to action, to hope. If we're not doing any of this, right, at least for me, doing these things have given me hope that, okay, something is possible, that I am also part of the solution, right? So the intent to do these sessions for others is also partly this, right? And now if you are feeling powerful that you can do this change, obviously you will become an enabler in the community, right? Now as a you're no longer the one who is always complaining. It's good to point out, to raise voices, so that's there. On the other hand, you're also thinking about how can I collaborate with others to make this space better, right? So the end of these sessions, my intention is also that the participants should feel like they're the enablers in this community, right? And we do these sessions for anybody, like be it a corporate group or an academic institution or any other organization, right? Just a group of interested people, that's it, across age groups. And lastly, the dream currently for me is to work with a local municipality. Just give me like, not if some things, at least waste management here or in the country cannot improve by a large scale if there's no political will, right? So trying to engage with that and see what their limitations are and how much can I help and collaborate to implement practices that already exist by law. It's just that implementation is lacking and some behavioral change that is required, right? So the dream currently is to do that. So recently some work is going on with that with Guntur municipality. So let's hope that comes to life soon, right? And lastly, I think I just feel like this is the beginning. Now the seed has germinated, the seedling is here. I think for me, there was a phase where I was guilty of my privilege, right? Now I think that's slowly shifting to what can I do with this, right? The first thing is to not misuse it. And secondly, I don't have to, spend so much time on how do I earn more money? Like I know how much I need for the kind of lifestyle I'm going to lead. So for that, I'll manage. Beyond that, I'm not going to, think about how to multiply how much I earn. Instead, I can focus on working on things that really call out to me, right? So that will be the journey from now on. And self-care, this I am not going to forget, because taking care of myself has only helped me contribute to whatever extent I've been able to so far. So I mean, for this seedling to grow, I'm sure it's not going to be an easy process. You'll have to keep nurturing the soil with some compost or etc. And so that will keep happening, and there'll be wide variety of infestation. So I should be taking care of those things. So and also to continue making difficult choices. I think these choices have shaped me to who I am today. And the more learning that I had it just came from the difficult choices of, say, entering these fellowships or starting this initiative or trying to engage with the government, all of this. So I'll continue doing that while taking care of myself and just being hopeful. Today, eco anxiety is for real, right? And especially now, this IPCC report of climate action change has come out, and it feels like doomsday. But trying to keep myself hopeful and trusting in that, and just going forward is how I see myself, in the next, I don't know, from now on. So yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you again. Adil?
Thank you, Kavya. You said you would want to share some
Yeah,
pictures?
yeah.
Yeah, you
Thanks,
could do that.
thanks.
Yeah.
Just a couple of pictures.
That logo is beautiful, by the way, Earth Sitters logo. It's one of the most wonderful logos that I've seen.
I just wanted to show off my harvest. That's all, so here you see, right? So the abundance that's there around once you start growing. So in the first picture on the left hand side, you see, like, whenever I give compost, there are things in that, seeds, etc. They germinate after a while. So most of what I grow is being dictated by my compost, right? I'm not going to go and sow something. So whatever comes, I just carefully transplant and give it care and nurture it. And so all of it I can't grow, obviously. So some of it I give as gifts to people by shifting it to those coconut shells. It's just a beautiful process. Like, at whatever scale you can just start growing something at your own homes. The motivation to compost will become 100 times more if you start growing, because you will see the full circle, right in front of your eyes, right? So just that's it. I think even if not for the environment or for others, just for yourself, you start doing that, and these things give you real happiness and ground you in real way, right? And anything that is giving you that real happiness is obviously good for the environment, for others. You don't have to think separately about what am I going to do for the rest of the world. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kavya. So if you want to really see the joy that Kavya gets in doing this, maybe you can follow her Instagram page and other pages as well, right? Earth Sitter.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kavya. And it was a really, really wonderful presentation, and so nice to hear your entire journey. And what I was telling Adil, that in my eagerness to start the presentation, I forgot to introduce you. So, so anyway, people would have got to know you a bit from your presentation and the kind of work you are doing. But I would also like to add a couple of things. Yeah, though it is at the end, but I would like to add a couple of things of how we at Bhumi College, we have experienced you. So first thing that I want to say about Kavya is that, I mean, all of you would have seen also the way she presented, is that the words like the drive, the energy, the rigor to translate the intent into action is what I see in Kavya. And the other thing is that the power of one. Even here when Kavya, you were here at college, it doesn't matter whether people are joining or not. So if Kavya is convinced about something, or if she has committed to something, she will just go ahead. And that itself becomes so inspiring that people start joining in. And so that was something. And the third thing is, of late, I've been seeing some of your Insta posts and all, which you've shared. So it's one thing is that what you want to do, but also the creativity and also the logo that Adil was also talking about, really amazing logo. And the creativity behind that, now how you do it, that how is what it connects to people. And I think the how is very important. And what you talked about, that initially you would be like, you would have opinion and you would come out very strongly, and how it has been a journey. And so one is that at self level, the things you have added at how to work with people, and also the creative side, the creativity with which you have been communicating those messages. Even here, you did that, the waste challenge or those activities which makes things very interesting, which wants people to connect to those ideas and those activities. So that's something really, really wonderful.
Thank you, thank you. And the logo, a lot of it is Preeti. She gave life to that idea. So yeah, she's done amazing.
I want to say something. Kavya is, can you guys hear me? We had like big trouble with my audio. Yeah. So Kavya is someone that when I think about my Bhumi journey, someone who just really kept, like, she just kept going, like the whole power of one thing, but she also, she's like the epitome of consistency. And that is something that I really, really strive for. And also, just this whole journey has helped you loosen up so much more and just embrace this child side of you. And it's just been so amazing to witness that, like from the first day that you came to now, even in your Instagram posts, just seeing that is just really nice. So I'm very happy to see what you're doing.
Thank you.
Kavya, would you like to share that video? If
So
you
I'll just make it, and maybe by the end of the session, I'll just have to try.
yeah, because that's really interesting.
Okay, sure. Okay. Bye. I mean, I'm off.
You're staying, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I think next up is Sandeep, and I've been given the job of introducing him, or at least what I've experienced of him. And yeah, I think I would like to do it through an anecdote or something that we experienced. So we spent maybe 3 or 4 days or a week together at Bhumi's Sharavati Rainforest Research Center. And I think one of the days we were traveling from the research center to Sagar town, I think, which is the closest town. And we were going on his bike. And Sandeep is a very nice guy, but he's a maniac. At least he was riding on his bike. So we were going at, God knows, 90, 100 on those ghat roads. And then suddenly he stopped. And we were going at 100 kilometers per hour. And then he stopped, and he stopped the bike on the side. And then he just checked if there was any incoming traffic. Maybe he didn't even do that. And then he picked up a small snake, I think, which was hurt, obviously not completely roadkill, but was severely injured. And he picked the snake up and he put it gently to the side. And I was like, how did you even see that? We were going at breakneck speed. You had a helmet on. It was night time. And then I realized that some people are, so when they talk about observing mind and thinking mind, there are some people who are just amazing at observing and just being. And Sandeep clearly is somebody who observes intently, keenly, maybe not around humans, or maybe he does, but at least in nature, when you see him, you can see the glint in his eyes. You can see what it means for him to just spot a wine snake, or just see like for me, it's a regular frog. I don't know what you call it, but when I can see that passion in his eyes, then I'm like, okay, I think this is where Sandeep likes to put his energy. Because with other people, you might find him to be a little dull. Honestly, he might not say too much. He might be introverted, but see him in his space, which is like nature and wildlife, and then just you can feel his passion. So for me, I will never forget that. I will also not forget it because the ride seemed very unsafe, but I'll not forget how he stopped and how he gently picked up that snake and made sure that the snake was taken out of harm's way, even though the snake was already injured. So for me, that sort of epitomizes what Sandeep is all about. And yeah, he's been a good friend, and I would like to invite him to share his journey. Sandeep?
Thanks, Adil. Namaskara. Thank you for inviting. I mean, I'm just going to present my screen.
Sandeep, I have your presentation. Do you want me to play it?
Yeah, just those pictures, if you can.
Yeah, I'll put it up. The first one.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can you see it, Sandeep?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right,
Thanks,
great.
Adil. Thank you for the introduction. So, yeah, like Adil was saying, like, for me, it all started with snakes. And I was always interested in outdoors and wildlife, like, like right from my school days, like, used to see animals and wildlife on Discovery and Nat Geo, but I had no clue that there's so much wildlife, and we have some amazing forests in the country. And so it was in school when one of my classmates, so a snake came to his house, and he ended up calling a rescuer, and that's when we realized that okay, there are people here who are rescuing animals. And he became a secret celebrity, and then we started stalking him, and then we found out there's so many animals and so much of wildlife right here. And so I decided like I'll definitely try and get into wildlife. And so till I think until I finished school, I rarely traveled. Like I hardly went outside Bangalore. So whatever I saw was only in the backyard, like snakes or butterflies, caterpillars and stuff. And somehow I got in touch with the rescuer, and started rescuing, like learned how to identify snakes. And it was only snakes at that point, but later snakes were definitely my ecological eye openers. I started looking at snake behavior and how people behave when they see snakes, and what are the kind of places that stay in, and why do they stay there. So so they were definitely my eye openers. And so yeah, right after school, like when I got into college, I started rescuing snakes and other wildlife in Bangalore, injured birds. And we also, you can see slender loris. So we still have them in city and outside the city. So after doing this for a couple of years, I also want to like go out and explore the forest. And again, it was all outside Bangalore. So with a bunch of friends, we started camping outside Bangalore, like Tumkur and Ramnagar. And we had no clue, like that we had elephants and leopards like right outside the city. And I think, yeah, so once we started doing that, like we couldn't sit inside the class, so it was always either camping, I come back to the city, go for rescues. And I mean, we saw like my first encounter with elephants, leopards, sloth bears. So all of this in wild was on foot and right outside Bangalore. And yeah, till then I had not gone to Western Ghats or any other big national parks or sanctuaries. And so then I decided that I would definitely explore more of these places and follow these animals. And so we were always behind them, like slender lorries. We found out they're in the outskirts, so we started going to many different places, and we tried to see them as much as possible. Like same thing with elephants also. We found out there's a group of elephants, and they were traveling from place to place, and we would see them on TV and find out the location, go there. And there was no agenda. It was just like curiosity and uh, you know to see these animals. And like for someone like me who has not uh, gone out or stayed in the forest for so long, like for almost 15, 16 years, and suddenly now I have this opportunity of camping, and so this experience was so thrilling and so different. Yeah, I still haven't come out of it. And so much later, I had the opportunity to go to many different places in the state, and I started working as naturalist, research assistant. I worked in like many places, many national parks, and I worked on elephants. And so much later, I got a chance to work in Bandipur. And so by this time, I think it was already about 5 years of doing this. And I think once I reached and started working in Bandipur, it was for a restoration project. So we were looking at some invasive species. So this is when I kind of reached the saturation point. Like I had seen everything in the sense like whatever I want to see. And so it was also the time when you're constantly thinking about conservation, and you're also hearing a lot of global issues. You're like bombarded with global issues, and sometimes when you hear and when you also think about global issues, like you're always left with a sense of hopelessness because you can't do much. And uh, like as an individual, like you can, there's always a limit. And sustainability, sustainable living, this is something that I was hearing and I was using at this point. And so I wasn't demotivated, but it was more of a nothingness stage where I want to like explore this. I was in a state of bliss where I just want to like go and stay somewhere and like in a forest. Like my interest in outdoors and wildlife has never changed, but this is when I want to like slow down the exploration part and learn something new. And so that's when I heard about Bhumi. Thanks, Adit. So Bhumi, I think Bhumi, like the first interview I came before joining the college. So that itself, like everyone was so welcoming. And I knew that I wasn't coming here to like sit inside the class, or I didn't have any expectation. I think that was also like very clear during the interview. So I just want to understand, and this was a very different place. So yeah, so no intentions, no expectations. So I joined, and I think the first day I joined, so we had inner outer ecology, and for somebody who was like stayed outside for so long, and then I come here, everyone's talking about like deep thoughts. So I thought I was not going to survive for long. But again, like so I met so many people who are like so different. Like everyone lives in their own world, but you don't hear much about their world. Like it was more of a exposure to different perspectives, so how they think about life and what they've been through. And so that was a very unique experience. And so even at Bhumi, like I knew I was not a classroom person. And so Bhumi, the way they uh, like gave the exposure about nature or sustainable living, it was not only about nature or sustainability. I think this is what happened for me for the longest time. It was only like animals, wildlife, and conservation. I never looked at people or anything. And here, it was very holistic, where you're talking about economy. So a lot of alternate options like So like we also had eco-friendly construction. We are talking about food and just the space itself. Like so, it's so different. And I started like staying here. Like I hardly stay at home. And like Bhumi, I even got a scholarship and I stayed at the hostel. And Bhumi never forced me to do anything, and uh, they even encouraged me because I had worked as a naturalist. They even sent me with Prakriya. Bhumi has a school Prakriya like right next to the campus, and so I used to go for bird walk with the school children. We used to explore the campsite itself. And I think one of the best things that's happened at Bhumi was also I had the opportunity to go to Sharavati with Prakriya school children, and so it was amazing. But I never thought I would, go there and work. Uh, but later, uh, during the internship, I decided to work on a restoration project with one of my friends, and so we both went to restore. It was a coffee plantation, and so we were planning to restore and plant native species. But there were a lot of issues like legal issues and also like alternate livelihoods because people are already getting money from coffee and tea. So we didn't have a plan for any alternate livelihood. So I couldn't do that. And right after that, I came back. I didn't know what to do. And then Bhumi said, so Sharavati is there and see if we can do something there. And I think that was also like the first time where you're not asked to work on someone else's agenda, but it's like you have the space and see what you can do. And so I always want to learn about biodiversity, and it was one of my dreams to look at biodiversity in a hotspot like Western Ghats. And so this was in the heart of Western Ghats. And so I said I'll go and so for a biodiversity survey. So I went there. So I didn't think I would stay there for 2 years. And so in my wildlife journey, I think Sharavati will always be one of the biggest chapters. I mean, my entire thought process changed after I went there. I used to go to Western Ghats all the time, but like living and surviving like two monsoons with the locals who have stayed there from hundreds and thousands of years, I think that experience is incredible. And so till then, I never looked at people, and because of the kind of exposure that we got at Bhumi, so I started looking at many different things. So at this point, it was not only animals. So it was a biodiversity survey where we looked at animals, plants, and everything, but we are also looking at people and all the other things that's happening around. And I think until this point, I always thought hunting and hunters are bad and they are the major threats to the forest. And so some of my neighbors were also hunters, and I had an opportunity to interact with them. And that's when I realized, like there's so much to learn from these people. So even though they hunt and they extract a lot of things from the forest, they're still living right inside the forest. And so we think looking at what they do and their lifestyle, that so these are the people who destroy the forest, but they have such a sustainable lifestyle that they've kept the forest intact, like right next to their home. And but you know someone like me, like who's staying in the city, and so we need power and we need water like pipelines. So now if I look at Sharavati, so some of the major threats are not really because of these people, but because of the projects, the mega projects that happen, hydroelectric projects, roads, and a lot of encroachment because of political agendas. So that was one thing. And yeah, so a major village interaction where I started going to schools, started meeting neighbors, went to many villages, And so this was, definitely, one of the biggest chapters. And so after I completed the biodiversity survey, so I knew I had to like do something, and I was a slightly, demotivated person, I think, till I went to Bhumi and Sharavati. Uh, I was quite satisfied with what I had done, and once after I left Sharavati, after I completed the biodiversity survey, and that's when I also thought, okay, like, Bhumi is creating so many communities, and for somebody like me, like, it was always like wildlife and biodiversity. So I thought, okay, like, I'll also like start something where you don't have to work on only one thing, but like do everything that you want to do. And also, like, there are so many people who are interested in wildlife, and so they don't know what to do. And so we also had a hard time to get into wildlife with no mentors and guidance. And that's when I thought, like, I can start something, because some of my friends who started with me, like through rescues and camping in Bangalore outskirts, so we all carry the same interest, and most of them are still working in wildlife conservation. They're working as naturalists. So with a couple of friends, so we started Piklara, and yeah, Piklara is pretty much everything that we all wanted to do. So, and we didn't wanted this to be only about, let's say, conservation, where you're depending on some external funding. So we wanted this to be sustainable. And I think that that's when we thought, okay, like, we have worked as naturalists, so let's run some nature camps, so that way we can keep it sustainable. And so awareness is also very important. And so if you're trying to create awareness about conservation, and if you go talk to people about conservation, nobody wants to listen. But I think once you introduce them and show them like how incredible like nature and wildlife is, and a lot of people will be interested, and they won't know how to get into it. So the idea was also to create a green spark. And so we started running camps, nature camps. We also designed a workshop where people can get into birding. Like, so one of the feedbacks that we got in our nature camps was they really enjoyed, birding as an activity, but they didn't know, how to look at birds, or way to look at birds, and how to carry this forward. And that's when we designed a workshop where people attend the workshop, and they learn how to do birding on their own. And I think we've trained about 100 people now. And we also thought, a lot of people think only evergreen forests and Western Ghats, you know, all the protected areas like Bandipur, Nagaroli. So these are the forests, and that's where they have to go to see animals. But there are many small fragmented patches and different dry ecosystem, which equally has unique wildlife. And most of the people consider that as wasteland. So that's when we started doing grassland ecology workshops, scrub jungle experience. And we also did something called Manduka, where it's about monsoon. It's not only about Manduka means frog, but so we used to, the focus was on frog, but we used to look at snakes, also interact with locals who stay in rainforests, understand what they are going through. And yeah, so so that's how it started. And now we also do biodiversity surveys. We also have collaboration with many hospitality wings, where they also want to do something related to nature, other than only hospitality. And so they've been supporting us, and so we are also working on a collaboration. And while I was doing this, again, it was a bit hard to like sustain only through Piklara. And so one of like the most my favorite mammal is elephants. And so like with snakes, like elephants were also one of the things how I got into wildlife. And so when we started, we used to go behind this group of elephants. And we met a researcher, biologist, elephant biologist, who was studying these elephants back then, about 8-9 years back. And he started identifying these elephants. and he knew all these elephants by name. And we understood that, these are only like males, like all male group, who kind of venture outside the forest and travel long distances, and they're not confined to only forests. They can even go to villages and stay in fragmented patches. So this is what we learned about 8-9 years back, and so that's my mentor Nishan, and so he gave me this opportunity to again come back to Frontier Elephants program and start working as a researcher. So along with Piklara, so also work with Frontier Elephants, where we study elephant behavior and also work on a bit of human elephant conflict mitigation. And so feral and frontier elephants are also like Bhumi, where they don't look at only animal behavior or only like forest. So they are also into people, and so this is again a holistic approach for proactive wildlife conservation, where there are many issues that are concerned with wildlife. It's not just forests and animals, and so we sometimes the issue is like infrastructure, and most of the time it's livelihood. So there are these are the issues that are actually need to be addressed, and so we are trying to understand the needs of both the animals, humans and elephants, and then come up with a strategy. And so yeah, so I think so the major shift after I joined Bhumi was only like from looking at only animals and wildlife. So I pretty much started doing everything I wanted to do. So through Piklara, I run camps and we do awareness programs. We are also setting up a nursery for native species, and we're also having collaboration with hospitality wings, and also have this opportunity to work as a researcher where we look at elephants, elephant behavior, and also help these people who live alongside elephant and other wildlife. So yeah, so it's been an amazing journey of learning in the last 10 years, and I think after I joined Bhumi, it was also unlearning along with learning, and yeah, I feel like I haven't even started. So yeah, I think that's about it.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you, Adil.
Farah?
Yeah. Just wanted to tell Sandeep that when you say that that's about it, I was thinking, oh my God, so much
a lot.
work you have done, and you're saying that's about it. It was like really, really great listening to you. And I mean, I was so inspired. Like I wish
Thanks.
when you do some field program, I would love to join you in one of those sessions.
Please.
It'd be really nice. Okay, so shall we move on to now our next speaker, that is Ravina. Ravina, can you switch on your video?
Yes.
So I'll briefly introduce Ravina. Ravina, rest, you will get when she speaks. So I think I always tell her, and that's how I would like to introduce her. Like Ravina, to me, is a very fine blend of a wise woman and a little girl. And the little girl in her comes alive in many ways. Like the way she is so genuine, so authentic about herself. She is, what she is. She just accepts completely herself, and she presents that she has no need to be something or somebody else. And the way she claims love from people she wants to, and all that makes her so dear, so endearing to so many of us. And as a wise woman, the way she is living life is like a wise woman. Like, all of us go through our ups and downs in life, but the way she handles those those situations, the way her perspective on life itself, the way she offers perspectives to others, the way she engages with others. And also a couple of things about Raveena is that the thing that she's passionate about, then she gives more than her 100%. And I think animal welfare is one of those where she's so passionate about that. And she knows her mind, she knows where she wants to put her energies, and then she decides. And she's another person who has kind of lived life on her own terms, I would like to say. And I think we'll go ahead. So Raveena, over to you.
Okay, so before I start, I'm going to introduce you to someone. Surili. Okay. So this is Surili.
Oh, so
She's one of the calves that is born at People Farm, and I've kept her in the office because it's raining today and it's a little cold. So she has a bed inside and she's sleeping here. And she was so we had rescued this cow called Karma, and she had an injury on her leg. And we didn't know that she was pregnant for the longest time. Like she was here for 5-6 months. We didn't know she was pregnant. And one day we woke up and there was this little calf. And that also made us realize that like majority of the cows that you see on the street, most of them are at some stage of pregnancy. Because I think Surili wants to go out for a minute. Come. Acha. Idhar आओ. Jump. Sorry, this is life with animals. So so we had this cow and she was pregnant, and a lot of the animals, in fact, like the female cows that we get, at some point they end up giving birth. And in Surili's case, her mother was so weak, so malnourished that she gave birth and she died the same night. And Surili, because she was so tiny, we had to ask one of our members who works in the animal welfare department to take her home. So now she stays in the house. She's being fostered by someone. That's why she's luckily able to make it. But if this was to happen on the street, she would have not survived. And that is like this is like a living example. Like when you see animals around, it really, even though you're working in an office, like I am working for animal welfare, but yes, it becomes a little removed because you're working behind screens, you're making sure the show is running, but just seeing these animals around really reminds you what you're working for. And funnily enough, like I started my alternative life from People Farm. So I currently work at People Farm. I started my journey with People Farm, and it's almost like a full circle. I am at People Farm again, and Bhumi was that like the middle part of my journey, which kind of enforced and made me believe that yes, this is what I want to do. So very, very grateful for having that experience. So I like honestly, before I came to the farm, like I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like sailing through. I did degree because karna hai. I did a job because karna hai. Job was mostly because I just wanted to be out of home. I wanted my freedom. 1 year I enjoyed a lot, went out, did this, did that. But after that, I was just like, no, this is not, like it doesn't feel right. And the next year also, then I just kept contemplating, what should I do? What should I do? And then I was like, okay, everyone just travels to find out, they'll find this thing in them and they'll suddenly be so enlightened and wanderlust and all of that. So I started traveling. I did that for a while, and it was fun. But it was very like surface level fun. You were just seeing new places, but there was nothing very stimulating about it. It was just pretty things and the same routine over and over again, indulging in things that you shouldn't be indulging in, just the same routine over and over again. And then one day I was at a cafe in Dharamshala and I saw a flyer for People Farm. They needed volunteers. And I was like, this is perfect. So I've started going every day. And volunteering, of course, it was hard work because So People Farm has animals. We have a farm, and we also have this department that makes products. And where I wanted to work was with the animals and on the farm, and it was hard work. Like, it's a 1.5 acre large property, and you had to go from one end to the other end carrying cow dung on your head. And I did that for like a month straight for like 3-4 hours every day. That was like my job. And even in doing that task, I realized that this is just giving me so much joy. And that's when I realized that job jo bhi ho, like, it might be the smallest thing, it might be the most monotonous thing, but when you have that vision in your mind that this is going to add up to something and this is going to make a difference, it even makes that monotonous work so meditative. And that's one of the things that I learned here at the farm. So I joined as a volunteer, and then Robin, the co-founder of the place, he was like, "Do you want to come stay longer?" I said, "Okay, yeah, I don't have any plans." So I ended up staying for a year, and they gave me like a very basic stipend, which was just enough for me to survive. And when I saw, I didn't even realize it then, but now that I look back on it, it's like I was being given just like a token amount, and that too was enough for me to stay, which just showed that I felt really, really deeply about this place and about the cause. And I have always been an animal lover, but like earlier it was on very like, as per my terms. I would eat non-veg, I would drink milk, I would wear like whatever, silk, everything. So it was very conditional. My love was very, very conditional. And when I came here, and when you see all the suffering, you see the cows, the kind of injuries they have, that's when I realized that I don't think I really love animals. And somewhere I do, but it's just that I had never been presented with the knowledge to make that decision. That, I mean, just that knowledge to know that your actions have consequences, even if they're hidden. If you're going and buying chicken from a supermarket, the truth is hidden from you. That's why you don't really know about it. That doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It's just that you're not aware yet. So when that awareness came into my life, I think that's when it didn't even take very long for me to switch my lifestyle. I just stopped eating meat. I stopped consuming dairy, and I've been doing that now for like 3 years, and I'm super, super happy with the way I'm going. And yeah, and in the middle, I had taken a break because I was offered a full-time job here. They were like, "Come stay here, whatever," and I was very convinced that I wanted to too. But it was just, I think, because it was still so new, like I was still exploring this alternative lifestyle. It was so new. No one around me was doing this. I think unknowingly also, I think I just needed that break, that 1 year break in the middle, to just reinforce my thoughts and my ideas that yes, this is what I want to do. So I applied for Bhumi. There were, like, my mother, of course, as most Indian parents are, get a degree, do this, do that. So I found a nice sweet spot in the middle. I found a course that I was very interested in, and my mother would also, like, she was also happy that I was like studying further. So I did signed up for the fellowship, and I thought I was going to learn something, but actually, like, I didn't learn about, I mean, I did learn about that, but I learned so much more, which I don't think any other course really offers. Like just about some things, just about like how feeling is okay, how expressing your feelings are okay, and just communication, man. Like, I don't think we realize what communication is so important. And now, when after coming here and living in such a close-knit community, now I notice like how important just bringing things up and the way you bring things up, how important that is. And I think Bhumi has a huge, huge role in that. Earlier, even I remember I coming to Bhumi, getting into so many arguments with people about veganism, about tum doodh kyun pe rahe ho, tum dahi kyun kha rahe ho, just like super aggressive. But slowly, as the course progressed, I realized that the most I can do is inform people. Pushing someone to take the right, firstly, there's no right or wrong, but pushing someone to take the right decision, it's not my place. My place, if I care, is to just make sure that people are aware. And now where I'm at, like at People Farm, I have, so I basically make sure that any rescue, any animal that comes in, their stories are heard. So putting their stories forward so that people are aware without being preachy. So that's basically our job. Um, at the farm, we have different departments now. So when I first joined, we were like, I think 11, 12 people, including volunteers, very, very small. We just somehow exploded in the middle. Now we're like some 43 people. We have locals from the village who work, so they have their own accommodation and everything. But we have about like 15 people who have come from all over the country and who come here, have made this their home. And let's see how long they stay. That is another thing. But yeah, they're here, they're helping us work towards the same goal. So we have an animal rescue, an active animal rescue that is running. So local people call us, we bring an animal if they're injured. And mostly the animals that we see are cows and dogs. Cows, because just stray dog population, no one is doing anything to make sure that unka population control ho. So we have a lot of dogs. And cows, because after cows are old, after they can't produce milk anymore, they don't have any use, so they are just left on the street. um, Usually, so, and then also when in the dairy industry, when a male calf is born, they are also just abandoned. So a lot of our calves that we rescue are abandoned male calves with injuries, they're met with road accidents or everything. So a lot of, yeah, so majority we have cows and dogs. If we were not to rescue these cows, they would probably go into a goshala. We have a big goshala here called Sara Goshala. And Sara Goshala ke baad, like that place always just has, somehow always has the same number of cows. Anytime you go, always 600. Because what happens is that the overflow of that goes to another Goshala from where they're sent for slaughter. So this is the harsh reality that is. And I think at some level, at least all of us who work in the media team have become so immune to this, because this is what we see day in, day out. We see animal injuries, we see them recover, we see them die, and a part of you just feels like it's like if a normal person was to come and sit with us in the media office, they'd be like, you guys have no heart. But at some point, I think you have to just shut that down so that you can just keep going. And sometimes, yeah, it does break you a little when you actually sit back and like pull yourself away and then think of all the suffering that there is. But also thinking about it, um it's hard. But also at some point, if you just have to keep going, you can't. You have to just put up this front and just keep going. And with animal welfare, honestly, it's not a field that is honestly for the weak hearted. And which is strange, because I'm like the softest person, like I cry at the drop of a hat, and I'm very like sensitive to these things. But it's more of training, that you just train yourself to not be so soft. Even when I was in Bhumi, I was always around the dogs. I rescued this little dog that is now a part of our Bhumi family, little Kanmani. I haven't seen her in a long, long time. But just small incidents. I think in Bhumi, so many of these incidents just made me realize that it was just so reaffirming of my choice and of my path that I want to take. And now, like, I'm someone who usually is very, very scared of saying, like, taking a long term commitment. And somehow, with this path, I don't have that fear at all. And having that sort of community that Bhumi gives you, even though like my batch, we're dispersed in so many different fields, but there's still that uniting factor that we all are working ultimately just to make sure that there's harmony, and we all want just less violence, more positivity. And everyone is doing it in their different actions, and this is my choice of space that I want to do. But like Kavya with the whole garbage thing, actually have a really interesting video that maybe Adil can play. It's the second video, Adil, if you want to play in a bit. It's about how our garbage and how our regular consumption has such a deeper effect, deeper than you would imagine. So we have a really big garbage dump here as well. And it's like we're in a really beautiful area with mountains and everything. And you can see this, it looks again like it looks like a mountain, but it's just this big garbage dump you can see from like so far away. And it's so sad to see, but yeah, yeah, this is the one.
I'll play it, Ravina.
Yes, go ahead and play it. Can't hear it, Adil.
Okay, 1 second. Not sure.
लर्न ट्वाइस। आज मेरे साथ कुछ ऐसा ही हुआ। यहाँ धर्मशाला कूड़ेदान में आके मैंने ये सीखा कि भाई टूटा हुआ कांच के जार, कांच की शीशियाँ, ये भी कबाड़ी वाले 3 रुपये किलो ले लेते हैं। तो सिर्फ ऐसा ही नहीं है कि हार्ड प्लास्टिक रिसाइक्लेबल है, कांच भी रिसाइक्लेबल है। बट बात ये आ जाती है कि क्या क्योंकि हमारे कूड़े में से कुछ चंद चीज़ें रिसाइकिल हो सकती हैं, हमारे को ये गैर जिम्मेदाराना हरकत करनी चाहिए। मैं कहता हूँ कि भाई कंजम्पशन से रिलेटेड प्रोडक्शन और प्रोडक्शन से रिलेटेड सफरिंग फुटप्रिंट का हमें ध्यान रखना चाहिए, पर उस कंजम्पशन के बाद जो हमारा गार्बेज डिस्पोजल है उसके सफरिंग फुटप्रिंट का क्या। बहुत सी चीज़ें तो ऐसी हैं जो रिसाइकिल हो नहीं सकती है। चिप्स के पैकेट, ये टेट्रा पैक, रेजर्स, कुछ भी चीज़ जो मल्टी मटेरियल है वो रिसाइकिल नहीं हो सकती। और यहाँ पे रिसाइकलिंग के लिए मैनुअल शिफ्टिंग होती है, तो वो लोग कांच लगता है, उनको नीडल्स लगती हैं, उनको रेजर ब्लेड से उनके हाथ कटते हैं। किसी ने तेज़ाब की बोतल खाली करके नहीं फेंकी तो उनको तेज़ाब का भभका लगता है। क्या ये ठीक है? क्योंकि हम अपने अंदर का वॉइड कंजम्पशन इससे भरना चाहते हैं। मैं समझता हूँ कि भाई हम सारी चीज़ें खुद नहीं बना सकते घर में, पर हम अपनी ज़रूरतें कम कर सकते हैं, हम लोकली चीज़ें सोर्स कर सकते हैं। गार्बेज डिस्पोजल में जितना हो सके उतना रिस्पॉन्सिबल रहिए। अगर आप मटर के छिलके फेंक रहे हैं तो आप अखबार में रैप करके फेंकिए, फेंकने से अच्छा है कि किसी गाय को दे दीजिए। क्योंकि यहाँ पे जब आप पन्नी में चीज़ें फेंकते हैं तो देखिए वो गाय के पेट में जाती हैं, पन्नी जीव की त्यों बनी रहेगी, गाय मर जाएगी। अल्टीमेटली वो पन्नी, वो टेट्रा पैक जब तक जलेगा नहीं, इस दुनिया से जाएगा नहीं। तो इससे अच्छा तो ये है ना कि भाई पन्नी, टेट्रा पैक, जो चीज़ें रिसाइकिल नहीं होती उनको आप खुद जला के ख़त्म करिए। पर हाँ, उससे भी प्रदूषण होता है। तो ले जाके बात यही आती है कि भाई कंज्यूम रिस्पॉन्सिबली। थैंक यू।
So, on the surface, we are an animal rescue organization. We have an animal clinic, but our ethos is rooted in how to reduce our suffering footprint and how to live a more sustainable life. So, suffering footprint is this concept where anything that you want to consume, anything like even it can be like a sandwich. That sandwich comes, you have to use bread comes in a plastic bag. For to make the bread, गेहूं को उगाते हैं, कैसे कैसे उगाते हैं, there's like this entire like chain that we are just unaware of. So yeah, at the end of the day, the whole thing comes that we just have to reduce our consumption. And I'm not saying I'm super at it, like I am also trying. We have a very strict rule here at the farm that everyone takes care of their own garbage. And I think that really helps people keep in check. Ki they have like this big bag of plastic that is filled up, and then you're like, oh my God, this is a lot. How do I dispose this? And then a second thought would be like, why do I even need to consume so much when I shouldn't be consuming half of the amount of this. So, and here at the farm, we struggle a lot about garbage disposal. We're in a very small village, about 13 kilometers south of Dharamshala, where we don't really have a system for garbage disposal. People usually go to Dharamshala and throw their trash there in that big mountain trash, disgusting place. But what we try to do is how can we not firstly create this garbage, And also we have a products team now we've started to use those plastic, make like bags and rugs, and just trying to be innovative with our waste. So that is something where I also connect deeply with Kavya, because I know she has this deep love for animals too, and this deep care for this cause. And somehow I feel like indirectly, like a lot of our issues are so connected. Even with Sandeep hearing his presentation, and just to see that human and wildlife intervention is so beautiful, and then we just end up going ahead and destroying all of it. Like, why, when all of it can be sorted, we just have to shift our habits a little bit. um, we also talk a lot about veganism, but we have an approach which makes a lot of vegans hate us. So we say that it's okay if you don't become vegan, try being veganish. So if you're drinking tea like 6 days a week, and you feel like it's impossible for you to leave dairy because you can't have chai, maybe try not having tea for 1 day in a week, and that too will have an impact. So like how you have this concept of meatless Mondays, just just having that, rather than just committing to such a big change that you feel like, oh my god, this is too overwhelming. Just try one step at a time. So yeah, and I don't have a very long presentation, but I think that I have the Adil, the third video. I think that will be a nice way to kind of sum up that we're all in this together and we all can make it work. So if you can just play that one.
कभी ना भूखमरी ना लालच की वजह, इंसान की दुनिया इंसानियत की, सोचो कुदरत की नेमत, थोड़ा थोड़ा बांट ले सभी। आओ तुम भी गाओ ये नगमा, और होगी एक दुनिया ऐसी भी, चाहेगा हो इसे सपना, पर आज नहीं तो कल सही। आओ तुम भी गाओ ये नगमा, और होगी एक दुनिया ऐसी भी।
Yeah, so I would like to conclude this by saying that if any one of you has ever felt nervous about having to take a different path than others, or just need that extra push, then I think Bhumi is a great place to just explore these options, because you just meet so many people who are living it, and also if you feel like you ever want to come visit People Farm, or want to volunteer, want to work, anything like that, you can get in touch with me. I'm just going to drop in my email ID in the chat so we can connect. And yeah, what next?
Thank you, Ravina, for that. Thank you to all three. Thank you for the work that you do for the world. Deepest gratitudes to all the three. And yeah, we'll just have some time for reflections, perspectives.
I know we have very little time left for that. We have like just about 10 minutes.
Maybe we'll extend by 5 more minutes if everybody is okay.
Yeah.
And so that if somebody wants to share something.
Can we stop sharing the screen so that we can see everyone. People are typing on chat.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but if somebody wants to unmute, they can unmute and speak
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, just a lot of beauty in all the presentations in terms and the creativity. Nice.
Would Kavya like to share her video? Where is Kavya?
Oh, I was just so engrossed in the presentation. I didn't send it to Adil or anybody.
Oh, you can play the video.
You can play. Yeah.
No, I don't have them on the laptops. Maybe I have to download them.
Oh, all right. Looks like everybody is imagining after that John Lennon song. Yeah, Ravina.
Song was
Yeah.
very nice.
Yeah.
Okay,